The Weaver is an elementalist who has decided that they are going to specialize in the desert in wielding multiple attunements at once.
Elementalists normally cycle through their magic one after the other, but the Weaver is combining them and creating these new elements out of the two, this kind of hybrid magic.
The Weaver can have 2 fire skills, 2 water skills, and then a 5th skill that is a fire and water skill simultaneously.
The weapon that they're going to be wielding is one that elementalists have long requested, the sword. So they will be picking up the access to imbue their blades with sabers of lightning, earthen hilts.
Playing the Weaver has this really interesting rhythm to it that is really cool. You can really surprise your opponents, catch people off guard, and keep a sense of flexibility. Your enemy doesn't know what you're about to do, and I think there's something really cool there.
I don't know about you, but the Weaver has certainly snatched my weave and forced me to get a Razor Naga and has given me arthritis. Hello everyone and welcome back. On today's video I'm going to be giving my brief overview, I'm going to try to keep it brief, on the new Elementalist Elite specialization, the Weaver. And once again, I have not had first-hand experience with the Weaver, so all my opinions are subject to change, and that can be applied to all the Elite specs that are upcoming and I have already reviewed. So with that being said, let's take a look at the Weaver. The official description reads, Weavers can attune to 2 different elements simultaneously, deftly cycling them from hand to hand and combining them to powerful effect. They favor swords in battle, and they channel the strength of the elements using their stance skills. My very first impression of the Weaver, even from that little description, there's so much to talk about, and boy does that little description only scratch the tip of the iceberg, no pun intended. However, my first impressions of the Weaver were a very mixed, I didn't know if it was going to be condition or power, but from the footage that we have been given, it appears to be a combination of both. So depending on your gear that you use, both power and condition damage should be viable. And especially with the new stat type coming in Path of Fire, the Grieving stat, it's going to be quite an interesting mix-up in the stat department. With power and condition damage being the main stats, you're going to get a lot of potential, especially with the Weaver. Moving along from stats, the 2 major features that the Weaver is getting is A, they're allowed to equip a sword. Finally, Elementalists have been wanting this for so long. Dagger was a close second to a very close-up brawler type mage, battle, sword mage type deal. But now they're finally getting it. And also the second major, and in my opinion, the most crucial component of the Weaver is their unique design of mixing the elements together. I might have said that I was going to get arthritis playing this, and I have no doubt about it. There are so many skills to cover, and we don't know them all. We don't even know all of them yet, and there's already so many. Personally, I am not an elementalist expert, and I will leave that side to be left to wood and potatoes. However, I'm going to bring a brief overview of the skills, the traits, and the utilities. I'm going to jump right in to the weapons because we have a lot to cover. Time for the weapons. There are a lot of skills to cover, so I'm going to hurry it along a little bit faster than I would with the other Elite specs, because not only do they have their basic skills for the sword, they also have dual skills, which is the main mechanic when they mix 2 elements together. So for fire, their auto attack chain is Fire Strike, Fire Swipe, and Searing Slash. Both Fire Strike and Swipe do flat damage. However, the third and final hit, Searing Slash, will also burn the enemies, so that's where the condition aspect comes into play. Also, with the second skill, it's known as Flame Uprising, and the description reads, jump forward and deliver a fiery blast to the area. This also burns with high flat damage. And the third skill, if you are in pure fire mode, you get Cauterizing Strike, and the description is stab your foe with full force, dealing bonus damage against burning enemies. So this has some synergy with the auto attack as well as the second skill for fire. Moving on to the auto attack for the water attunement. The only skill that we currently have is known as Sage, which reads, imbue your blade with water, healing yourself for each target you strike. I have looked at the tooltips, but I don't exactly know the names of them. And what I can conclude from those tooltips is that the water auto attacks are more focused on healing yourself, but I also think it will heal allies for the final attack. Don't quote me on that, I'm not sure, but I think that's what it does. Moving on to the second skill for water attunement, it is known as Riptide. The description reads, use the element of water to propel yourself backwards and regenerate, leaving a healing area at your location. So it's more of a defensive skill where you're gonna twirl backwards like a ballerina, which you might be able to see in the footage. And once you end from your twirling, you will leave a field of water which will heal allies and presumably yourself if you stand in it. Moving on to the air attunement, the only skill that I currently can see is the second skill, which is known as Polaric Leap, and the description reads, shadow step to your target and deliver a dazing strike. Gain super speed if you interrupt an enemy. I can already see air being really focused on just delivering a flurry of attacks, lightning fast, running all over the place, and making the enemy suffer. That's more Necromancer. And those are all the basic attacks for sword. I will now be moving on to the dual skills for the Weaver. So for fire and water, the combination, it's known as Twin Strike, and it reads, quickly strike enemies in front of you with the extreme nature of fire and water, and it appears to apply both chill and burning, as long as giving you vigor, more dodging, more survivability. And for water and air, you get Shearing Edge, and the description reads, form a frozen blade and spin it towards your enemies, dealing flat damage as well as chill, and again, giving yourself vigor. So the vigor is outlined in blue, so I don't know if that is trait or if it's just affected by a trait. Most likely a trait though. And moving on to the staff dual skills. Remember, it's not only your sword, it is also your staff, your scepter, and your dagger. So the ones we have for staff is a mixture of water and air, which is known as Monsoon. The description reads, launch a hurricane in a direction, healing allies and damaging enemies as it passes through. So you're gonna get regen from this, chill, and once again vigor. I'm starting to think that there's actually, this vigor mechanic is a trait. I will look into that. And for the dual skill for air and earth for staff, you get Piledriver. And this description reads, after a short channel, launch a hyper-fast boulder that decimates foes in its path. This skill is a poster child for hard-hitting, massive attacks. It does a flat damage of 1.6 thousand on this specific character's gear. It also applies vigor, once again, for that trait. And one thing I'd like to mention is that there is a trait that I know is confirmed that will apply barrier to the Weaver whenever they use a dual attack. Probably just to help them in the midst of combat so they can stay up front, because elementalists are the lowest health pool and they are also the light armor class, so they're very, very squishy. There are also other dual skills, but I will leave those for Wooden Potatoes to just gorge over. I know he'll do an absolutely fantastic video on the Weaver whenever he gets a chance. He's so busy. Go watch Wooden Potatoes videos. My obsession right now. But for right now, that was just a little plug. For right now, we're going to look at the utility skills with, we're going to start out with the healing skill, which is known as the Aquatic Stance. Remember, they're getting stances. Very interesting. Warrior-esque. So, the Aquatic Stance. This skill reads, striking a foe causes water to erupt from them, healing your nearby allies. I'm going to guess that there is a flat healing off this, as most healing skills have, but second mechanic is whenever you attack, more healing will be generated around that enemy. So that's a healing skill, pretty nice. It forces you to deal more damage as this spec entails. Moving on to the regular utility skills. First, we have Primordial Stance. Channel the prime elements at their core, dealing damage based on your current attunements. Fully attuning deals the same condition twice. So I'm guessing this is going to be your condition-centric utility skill to use for extra condition damage. Moving on to the second utility, we have Stone Resonance. Enter an earthen state, gaining barrier periodically over the course of the stance. There's that barrier mechanic once again to keep them in the midst of combat. And the final one I currently know of is known as Unravel. For a period of time, you forego your Weaver training, choosing to fully attune to elements instead. So I'm guessing this is going to just force you out of your Weaver stuff and will give you easier access to swapping to one attunement at a time. Kind of a reset mechanic, which will be very interesting to see how players use it in a strategic format, both in raids and in PvP. Raids, it can be really interesting because you have to keep track of all these skills, and then you might notice that you have this one skill that can just restart you basically to just keep you on a fresh and even playing field. And for the Elite, it is very interesting. It is known as Weave Self. Temporarily reduce the recharge time on attunements while gaining bonuses for attuning to new attunements. Successfully attuning to all elements ends the stance and grants Perfect Weave. And Perfect Weave is an increased bonus to all stats and gives you certain perks. But there is also a flip over skill known as Tailored Victory, and this is like a mini gravity well. It reads, release all of your woven elements and end your weave self stance, causing gravity itself to unravel around you. So I heard from Wood and Potato Stream that it is more like a mini gravity well for a little bit extra CC on the battlefield, which is going to be really nice because seeing this, everything I've seen so far, there isn't too much CC, so that Elite will come in handy in certain scenarios. Oh my Balthasar, there's so much information. Those are all of the utility skills that I know of so far. I'm going to quickly move into the traits. There are no minors that I can see. I only have the majors, but those are the juicy stuff. So we're gonna move right in. For the first major adept, it is Superior Elements, which reads, dual attack skills weaken enemies, deal increased damage to weakened foes. Extra damage, extra flat damage. I don't know if it's condition damage. It doesn't necessarily say condition damage. It just says damage. So I'm gonna go with flat damage. The second major adept is Master's Fortitude. Gain increased vitality when wielding a sword. Gain bonus vitality based on a portion of your power and condition damage. So you have that duality spec, or not spec, but duality aspect of both power and condition damage. More vitality, more survivability. Sadly, there is not a third adept. However, there are 3 masters and grandmasters. So moving on to the masters, we have Weaver's Prowess. Gain increased condition damage and duration for a period of time after attuning to a different element. With the reduced attunement swapping, it's going to be really nice for that condition build. The second master is Swift Revenge. Gain swiftness when using a dual attack. Deal extra damage to enemies while under the effects of swiftness or super speed. Again, helping with the air stuff, possibly. If there is more swiftness and super speed, you're going to be doing some more damage with your dual attacks. And for the third master, you have Bolstered Elements. Gain stability when activating a stance. Activate Lesser Stone Resonance when struck while below the health threshold. Some more survivability, a little bit more tanky stuff. It'd be very surprising if the Weaver ended up becoming a tank in PvE. Meta? I think not. Maybe off meta, probably. And for the Grandmasters, we have Elements of Rage. Gain a damage bonus for a period of time when attuned to a single element. Gain ferocity based on a percentage of your power. Some more crits. Some more hard-hitting crits. Second Grandmaster is Unravel Hexes. Lose conditions at a rapid rate while under the effects of super speed. Gain super speed when you are inflicted with inhibiting conditions or movement inhibiting conditions. a little bit more survivability, getting out of certain conditions when under the effects of super speed would tie into the Swift Revenge trait. And for the third Grandmaster, we have Invigorating Strikes. Gain vigor when using a dual attack. Dodge rolling grants a barrier. There is that barrier mechanic for the dual strikes. Definitely going to be needed, especially in PvE. I have a feeling. I have a deep-rooted feeling. And there you guys go. That is my brief overview of the Weaver. Did not do justice. Watch out for Wooden Potatoes. He's going to go ham on this Elite Spec. My overall impression is that it's going to be a really fun DPS spec, and I'm really excited for Elementalists to have one of these. Got the Tempest support, and now we have the Weaver damage. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Subscribe for more Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire content. Like the video if you liked it, and comment below about what you think about the Weaver. I'd also like to mention that I have a referral link to buy Path of Fire down below, which would greatly help me out in the real world currency department. So tell your neighbors, tell your friends, and tell your family. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.